This is a Veterans History Project oral history with Mr. William C. Doyle. Today is Saturday, April 5th, 2008. Bill, would you please state your full name, date of birth, and place of birth?
My name is William Charles Doyle. I was born in Baltimore City on October the 31st, 1914.
And that makes you how old today?
I am 93 years old, plus 5 months.
Congratulations. And where were you raised?
For the first 12 years of my life, I lived in Baltimore City. And then my parents moved to Halethorpe in Baltimore County. And I spent the rest of my adult life in that neighborhood.
And you could spell Halethorpe for me again?
Halethorpe.
Great. And you were saying that you went to high school. Where did you go to high school?
I went to high school at Mount St. Joseph's High School in Baltimore City.
And what happened during high school?
Well, I went there in rough times, and in the early 30s, and my parents had a hard time. You know, they had 6 kids, and so I had a job working in the A&P store. So I just went to work, quit school, and went to work there. And then after the war, I went back to Mount St. Joe and got my diploma. Yeah.
What year it looked like was 1946 that you got your diploma?
And it was the class of January 1946, yes.
Congratulations. Yeah. That's really nice. So you went back and were able to get your diploma.
Well, those brothers were good to me. They really were. They're a good bunch of teachers. That's all. And the Severian brothers taught there.
Did they?
And they still teach there.
Did they?
Yeah.
Yes.
My son went to school there, went to high school there. And if my grandson was here, had been here, he would have gone too. But my grandson went to a Navy school in Spain.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
While my son was stationed there. Yeah.
You were working then at the A&P?
Yes.
And what kind of work were you doing?
Just clerk. I was a clerk, that's all. Just waiting on customers. It was a lot different then than it is now. You did not go through the store and pick out things that you wanted like you do now. You just told the clerk what you wanted, and he would go and get it for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When you were at the A&P and you were spending some years there, how long did you work there? Do you remember?
Oh, not very long.
No.
Because in 1935, I went to work for the Maryland Distilling Company.
Mm-hmm.
And about a year later, it became the Calvert Distilling Company. And then sometime after that, the Joseph E. Seagram.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked there for 42 years.
That would have been after the war? You came back and worked?
After the war, I went back there and worked, and I retired in 1977.
What kind of work did you do during your career, Bill?
I worked in a chemistry lab.
Mm-hmm. What did that entail?
Before the war.
Mm-hmm.
And after the war, I had a job in the still house running stills and other operations in the still house there. Yeah.
Good work. It sounded like a good company to work for, too.
Seagram was a good company to work for. Joseph E. Seagram. Some people named Bronfman owned the Seagrams at that time, and they were good people to work for. They were, yeah.
Where was that located, the Seagram's
distillery? In Relay, Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
Not too far from where we are now. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
Not too far.
Now so you're born in 1914. You're raised. Where are you in the birth order of your family?
Number 3.
Number 3?
Yes.
Okay.
Number 3. I had 2 sisters after me,
mm-hmm.
and 2 brothers after them, and I lost one of the brothers as an infant. He died very, very young. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you spent pretty much all of your youth and in your in the Halethorpe, and as an adult too in Halethorpe, you lived there.
Well, after I was married, I moved to Relay,
Mm-hmm.
which is about a mile and a half away from Halethorpe. And I lived there for about a year and a half, sold my home there and moved to Elk Ridge, which is 2 more miles further west. And I lived in Elk Ridge for 17 years. And the state built I-95 coming through there after I was there 17 years, and they took my property for the road, for I-95. And so I had to move again. I moved to Ellicott City then, and I stayed in Ellicott City with my family for 37 years there.
Now, Bill, tell me where were you as we neared the World War II in the 1930s? Where were you working? You were working for the distillery at that point?
I was working for Seagram. No, I was working for the Calvert Distilling Company then.
Calvert Distilling Company.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And you were working in the chemistry lab?
I was working in the chemistry lab doing analysis on whiskey, grain, coal, anything that came along.
And that would have put you about 24 years old or so, 24, 25, do you think? The late 1930s?
When I left there to go into the service, I was 27 years old.
You were 27.
Yeah, I was 27.
How did you come to go into the service? How did that all come about?
Well, it was time during the draft. I got my letter from the government saying that I was going to be drafted, and they gave me a date to report to the draft board, and I did. On April the 24th, in 1941, I went to Catonsville, and that's where we all met. And from Catonsville, we got on a streetcar and went to the 5th Regiment Armory. And that's where we took all of our physical exams. And they told us where we were going, sent me to Fort Meade on that day.
Mm-hmm.
And I spent about 2 weeks in the reception center at Fort Meade before I was assigned to C Company, 175th Infantry.
And then assigned. Did you have any idea when you were drafted that you would be placed into the 175th Infantry?
No, had no idea where I was going or what I was going to do. No.
Had you thought at all about enlisting prior to being drafted?
No.
Mm-hmm.
No, I had not, because my wife and we were planning on being married, and joining the Army didn't enter my mind at all until the draft came along, and then I knew I was going to have to go. But on April the 24th, 1941, I was drafted into the service. Yeah.
Now, and you were assigned then was it at Fort Meade that you learned you were assigned to the C
That's
Company?
where I went, Fort George G. Meade, yes. And,
C Company, 175th Infantry. At that point, was it called the 29th Infantry Division? Or was
yes, it was the 29th. At that time, the 29th Division was what they called a square division.
Okay.
There were four infantry regiments, and I don't know how many artillery and other things, but it was a square division at the time. Maybe 6 or 8 months later, they did away with the square divisions and they all became triangular divisions. Just three regiments, and each regiment had their own artillery regiment, and each regiment could act on their own. Yeah.
And when you went to Fort Meade, were you there with the other infantry regiments that made up the 29th?
Yes.
They were all there as well?
The 116th was there, and the 115th, the 110th Field Artillery, everything was there, yes.
Everything was there. And at that time, were they all coming together? Were they all new draftees that were coming in, do you know?
Most were, because the 29th Division and the 175th Infantry and the 116th and 115th were National Guard units. And so they were not up to strength. And they did get up to strength when I was inducted into the service, yes. We all went in there and filled the regiments up to their full strength. Yeah.
Were some of the guys they were already National Guard members who were in?
They made up the cadre, yes. Yes, they did. And I can't tell you how many National Guardsmen were there, but not very many. Not many.
Mm-hmm.
It was, like I said, it was just a cadre, that's all.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So there were enough men to get the regiment started, yeah.
Now, and you were at Fort Meade for a couple of weeks in 1941, do you remember?
Well, when I was drafted
Mhm.
at the reception center
Mhm.
for 2 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
and I just laid around there, didn't do KP duty once
Uh-huh.
while I was there.
What's your rank, by the way, when you drafted? What was your rank when you came in?
Oh, private.
You're a private at this
There's a
point.
private, yes.
Mhm.
And, but then after 2 weeks, we were sent to the 175th Infantry, like I said, C Company.
Mm-hmm.
And I did my basic training there at Fort Meade for 3 months.
That was pretty convenient, wasn't it, for being a Baltimore guy
Yes,
living
it
in
was,
Fort Meade?
because I was only about 6 or 7 miles away from home, and I had my car there, and so I could go home anytime that I got a pass. I could go home, you know.
They let you keep your car
Oh yes,
on the base.
they were very strict about it. You had to have insurance on your car. If they park your car on the base, your car had to be insured, just like it is now, you know. Like, but yes, I did keep my car on the base, and right near not too far away from my barracks, to tell you the truth, where I lived.
What were your days like at Fort Meade when you were going through basic training? Describe what it's like, basic training.
Well, it was kind of hard work, doing close order drill mostly, digging trenches, slit trenches, you know, and drilling, going on little maneuvers, things like that. That infantry training mostly for me was just close order drill, and on the firing range, firing your rifle, you know, and I was in a machine gun squad. Taught me how to dig a trench for the machine gun, you know, have a foxhole. But it was a little complicated, you know, to have this machine gun in there.
How do you? Why were you assigned to a machine gun squad? It just happened that way.
This happened when I went in there. Most of the people went into a rifle platoons, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and they happened to put me in a weapons platoon.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was in a machine gun squad, a light machine gun, 30 caliber.
Mm-hmm.
And
What kind of work? What was your responsibility when you were first training with that machine gun squad? What did you have to do?
keep it clean.
Keep it clean.
That was all. Yes.
You had to learn how to do that.
That their responsibilities were to keep yourself clean, yourself and your equipment. That was it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
What's it like to learn how to dig a foxhole? What's that feel like? Is it hard?
not at Fort Meade. In Fort Meade, it was sand. You know. Yeah, it was sandy soil at Fort Meade. No, it wasn't hard at all. And,
Uh-huh.
but it was a little different when we got over to France. The
Mhm.
soil was hard. It's as hard as a rock, you know, in the summertime, and you had to really pick at it and dig at it to dig your slit trench.
When you were digging, and what is a slit trench? Describe what that means.
I suppose you would lay on the ground prone, your head, your feet. You start at your head and dig down to your feet. Dig enough so that you could get below ground level. That's your slit trench. Yeah. And that was your protection. That if somebody was shooting across the field, they wouldn't hit you if you were in your slit trench, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was the main reason for digging a slit trench, for your safety. Yeah.
there. When you're in basic training as well, did you learn how to shoot a weapon besides
Yes.
the machine gun?
Oh yes, I learned to shoot my rifle
Okay.
first.
What kind of rifle did you have?
At that time, I had a Springfield '06, and
What do they like to
03,
shoot?
not an '06, '03.
1903 Springfield
Yeah,
rifle.
yeah.
What do they like to shoot? Are they?
Bolt action? But
They're bolt action.
bolt
And
action.
describe how that works.
Bolt up,
Mhm.
back, put the shell in, forward and down, and you're ready. It's cocked, ready to go.
One bullet at a time.
No, well, the rifle, then you could, let me see, I think you put 5 or 6 shells in there at one time. You had a clip that you could put down,
Okay.
and each time you pulled the bolt back, the empty shell would come out. You push it up, and your gun is loaded again. Yeah, and it's not a gun; it's your piece.
It's your piece, huh?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
It becomes your friend, your best buddy there, doesn't it?
It's
Carrying your
supposed to
weapon,
be
or
that.
your,
Yes.
your piece.
Mhm. Right.
And you started with a 1903 Springfield rifle.
Right.
Then
Mhm.
what other kind of weapon did you wind up with?
But then everyone was issued a Springfield, but I had the light machine gun too
Mhm.
that I fired, and I had to fire that on the range.
Mm-hmm.
Not very often, we didn't, but I remember going to the rifle range many times to fire it. Down at Fort Meade, they had a real good rifle range down there, and we would fire at I guess maybe 100 yards.